All right. Art money, Fund 128. Mayor's proposal has a few things in there from previous years. I asked Lori to give us the purchase orders that are still open. 104, 103. So you can get an idea of those projects that have they've tied up the money, but they haven't finished the project. Um, I think in the last month, you guys have been closing a lot of purchase orders that were lingering out there.
Yeah, except not ARP,
Um,
because those POs are committed, they'll be spent eventually.
so let me start out by asking you this: what's your overall idea of how we finish up this last year? Because I'm of the opinion this is pretty much the last year we're going to budget anything with ARP. There,
It is, if the revenue holds true, let's start on 103 first of all. That is truly a guess. That's Mike Smith's guess, but that's according to how quick we spend some of these projects. Uh, the broadband money, for example, is still helping us because we're drawing interest on it. But if we were to, and according to what he gave you in your report, we'll be paying that very soon because they've done the projects, they just haven't asked for our part of the money yet. But the longer they wait to ask us is a good thing because we're drawing interest. Because of that, not knowing how quickly those things are going to get spent, that 300,000 on page 103 is totally a guess. Um,
but we made more in interest than your projection in the current budget. That don't
yeah, we
carry.
did in the current budget. We did well, and that's because again we didn't spend as much as we had kind of thought we would. For example, the broadband, it lasted the whole year. If it lasts the whole year again, that 300 may go up too, but it won't. And I think most of it will get spent this year, so if we can make 300, be doing good.
So go with 300 of interest, and you don't get all 300 on July 1. It's going to take a while to get to that 300.
Yeah, that's all year. That's the revenue for the
So
year, is what we're projecting.
as far as the buckets are concerned, the famous buckets, all of them are spent except for broadband. In other words, they're all zeroed. Right now, well, highways, roads is not.
They got a PO
Yeah.
that's done. It's PO'd. Help me to remember, Caleb. Is there anything in that front page of the buckets that's not spent? Ambulance one is all spent now.
Oh, and nursing home, he hasn't spent for his van. I saw that.
Well, he's in the second page. He's in the interest
Yeah, I'm
bucket.
just looking through.
He has spent 10,000 of his on repairs. He's got the rest to
Mm.
go. We will tell people like him they got to finish up what they're going to do this budget year.
Mm-hmm.
I still hope to have some at the end of the year to answer your question because things like ongoing things like sheriff's cars. I hope there's money here for a couple of those things, or we'll really have it tough next year. Is my point when we finally get away from it. But
Mr.
yes,
Slater.
Mayor, do you know where we are related to account 706?
58,834. I bet you're talking about community services. I
Yep.
knew it would be.
Ma'am?
Where we're at on that, we have committed that amount of money for a grant match. They have applied for the grant, but when we'll find out about it, that one will probably end up being the last thing spent because if we get the grant, I've told them they'll have to start to spend our money first. Usually it would be last, but it's a grant match. City and county are matching a huge grant that if they were to get the grant, it's going to be a wonderful thing. I'm not that sold on them getting it, but they feel like they will, and if they do, that's what that's for. So that could be a year from now being done, but it definitely will be a while.
I saw Councilman Moore the other day. He's on that, I guess, and he said that they're looking at land. I mean, the first place that they looked at, they didn't care for, and they're looking somewhere else, and that's where they're at in the process. That's what he told me.
They are, but in the meantime, the application's in, so because it'll take a while. Grants are really slow right now, and they always are, but they really are right now. Do you have anything else, Cindy?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then you got EMS with a laptop for $2,000 something. I think.
That's just what's left of their
Hold on.
They've PO'd all of it but the 2,000, I think. They PO'd the amount that was in the front page bucket
Right.
because it had to be committed, so they're working out of the interest bucket also, but they've got a little bit left. And that's mostly to, not all, but mostly to equip the ambulance that'll be delivered in October.
So, Lori's laptop's gonna have to be replaced sometime soon. Do we go ahead, is it your preference to buy, technology kind of stuff, still out of ARP or out of each account?
Well, either one, I would suggest doing it as an amendment.
We will.
And it could either be here or 189, either one, can be about the same difference at this point. Now that we're to the interest bucket, ARP don't bother me as much as it used to, even though we still got some to spend, because I don't have to, you do the ARP reports, right? I don't have to report on the interest, right? We're still having to report because we haven't spent everything else, what I call the front page of the buckets. But now that we're into the interest bucket, it doesn't bother me to use ARP near as much, but I would suggest doing it as an amendment in July or August and let the budget get approved, and then you come back and amend from the fund balance. Of either one of those would work.
Yeah, we were looking at the life of her laptop the other day, the one she has in there, and it. What was the other question? Oh, Southeast Tennessee District, they're still doing all the reporting, and we.
They work with some of them, Community Services Agency, for example, they've worked with, and they charge for that. Then they work with Caleb on doing the quarterly reports. And then we have to call them and say, you need to bill us in this year. And they've billed us this year, and they've projected that's what it'll be next year. May not be that much because things like Community Services Agency, instead of being a project, will become a grant, I hope, and they won't be charging us then.
All right, that's Chuck. That's got, so overall on art monies, we dwindled down. It'll get into like $1,000. I mean, and then you just.
I'm hoping to have, if you don't whittle at it too much, enough for like I said, the sheriff's cars next year. If not, we'll have to switch over to 189, and I don't want to use 189 anymore than I have to because it's committed, as you well know. So, but we'll have
fine.
some. If that interest holds true, we'll have 300,000. If that interest don't hold true, we won't have.
All right, so that's all there is to art money.
Cleveland States, by the way, is a 3-year commitment. It's
What's that?
funded this first year in ARP. More than likely next year it'll have to go to the general fund. That 18,000. Now the 18,000, it's a 10,000 commitment that we'll definitely spend. And right now it looks like we're going to have more than the 4 scholarships. But in the past we've only had 2 and 3 scholarships, so we don't spend it all that we've budgeted. But I think if you look this year, it was 4,000. That means there was just 2. We've budgeted for 4, and we've, according to last time I asked Adam, we've got several going back to be paramedics this fall. We're not funding them all. We can only fund 4, but there's more than 4 going, so that's a good thing. But what I'm saying is we potentially might not spend all of that 8,000.
Anything on art? Well, I think that you got all these open POs as well. That'll part of
The sewer is in there for juvenile that we talked about in the other room. It's amended to be in there. It's not PO'd because I'm waiting to see if I have to bid it. But if I get the proposal from him, he said by tomorrow I'll be POing that 50,000, but it'll be less than 50,000. So there'll be an amount there not spent, I hope.
Well, I hear what you're saying, that if we can keep it without, nickel and diming it, then you'll have money for vehicles for, I guess, the 26, 27 budget. But knowing us, we'll handle it. All right, schools, 141, that's, we just either like it or all of it or not, right?
131.
131, oh, sorry, went right by that. Roads, there's nothing there. The only thing I've noticed there is their fund balance is 27%.
Well, they play with their fund balance every year. He'll come back and amend it and do things. He has a lot of leeway there. He doesn't have to maintain that big of a fund balance, of course, but he'll end up probably amending it into hot mix or something at the appropriate time.
He didn't even spend all of his hot mix.
I know, but
So
a
anyway,
lot depends on how much state aid they get every year because
Yeah.
state aid's helped a lot with that subject, so.
Yeah, and they, in that road committee, they mentioned that some funding from the state's going away, but I forget what it was, but.
And their raises, they followed us with the 3%,
they
so
did too.
I can't verify theirs, but
But-
they did resubmit with the 3% in there, so.
Yeah, and, their amendments the other day, but that's the biggest thing I noticed on there was that their fund balance, percentage-wise, is probably the healthiest of all the funds.
Yeah. That don't mean it'll stay there, though. He'll probably do something
Oh, yeah,
with it.
well, I think their budget is geared to dwindle it down.
Yeah.
I mean, their expenses are more than their revenue. And that's the only thing. 141. Does that bring back memories? This is. I mean, I bet they had to make a lot of phone calls. 143, 145.
Go back, 141, is that schools or that?
Yeah, that schools. There's their what do you guys call it? That's their operational
Yeah.
fund.
That's their 101.
Yeah. Their 101.
When I looked at the budget, Mayor, you might explain, or Susan can, their income was like 112 million, but their expenses is like 113 million. How they planning on making up that $1 million difference on their income and expenses?
Well, if you look at their total, it's like ours, and I think I'm saying this right, Susan, make sure. On page 117, you take their fund balance and their projected revenue, you've got available funds of 126 million,
Right.
and their budget's 115. So they're projecting an $11 million fund balance.
Right.
But keep in mind, throughout the year, you guys will amend millions. That's when they're coming back and they're gonna amend the money. I'll make this up, I'm not speaking for them. Maybe they're gonna, what's one of their additions? Parkview. Maybe they haven't budgeted Parkview yet. They'll come back and amend 4 million out of there for Parkview, that kind of thing. But right now, they're projecting 11 million fund balance, which is going down, but their fund balance last year was for that same reason too. Am I saying that right? They keep that fund balance at the end of the year with the intention they're gonna amend out of it for capital. They've got a capital fund, but they amend out of it for that.
I thought all the projects this fall or this coming year were already budgeted. The schools and everything and the science wing, and I
They're
thought
in
that was already
177.
budgeted.
That they would do later. I'm pretty sure that's right.
But no one knows how much or what.
Not until you do the amendments. You get big amendments. You did last year for those kinds of things. They're for those projects. Maybe it was to purchase land, you did it. You did some pretty good amendments for that reason. Anything should say different, Cindy, because because I'm speaking about something I'm not part of, but I know in general terms what they're doing.
And I talked to Ellen yesterday. They get their second estimate from TISA, and it was more than, I guess you guys, put your old hat on for a second. You had your first wave of projections from TISA, and you have your second one, and you get your final one in July. And you project even what those are going to be, and it was more than what that projection was. So the
Usually
state-
they get better.
yeah.
And then they've got some big grants that come in after the budget's approved that you'll be amending in too. You do that every year.
So
Can't think of the name of
They're-
it, but there's some pretty,
there's more money coming in than what they projected, even with the different waves of TISA coming in. Is that right, the way?
Yes, it doesn't always go up, but we've been really fortunate. Most of the time, it does go up by July.
And then July is the final one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
But see,
Susan.
we've had to, actually, they have to budget on the first estimate. They get one, well, yeah, because we have to actually do that budget in April.
Yeah, they're using that first lower number when they
Knowing
do their
dang
budget.
well it's not right. I
They,
mean,
they know or hope it's gonna be better later, and it has been in recent times. So we were talking about it yesterday, down the road, I don't know that TSIS gonna always be better, in my opinion, but right now it is.
all right, so
I
that is,
guess that,
go ahead, Commissioner Officer.
looking at 117, the very bottom of the page there, it says reserve at 9.5 is what you're proposing, Mayor, and the required reserve is only 5%. That,
And
and
that
that goes back to what we passed a long time ago, that 5%. We asked that they keep a 5% fund balance.
true. That's what county policy requires. What that really tells you, Louis, is they've got 4.5% of that fund balance they can spend on these capital things, and that's why they'll come back with amendments, do some of that. They've got, that's what I would call excess fund balance.
Right.
And they will do it with those capital. The good thing is now, they're funding a lot of these projects along with us, and used to they didn't. Used to, they would come to us and we would fund whatever they did or they didn't do it. And so now, because of this, they're funding a lot of them. So I'm not speaking for schools. I disagree with them as much as anybody probably, but at the same time, that part of the story has really gotten better. You know, this time we're funding 15 million, they're funding 10 or 12. Didn't used to be that way. You go back 20 years ago, they'd come to us for 15 million, end of story. They didn't fund anything. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot better.
Well,
But that
I'm not
4.5%
gonna
fund
get into
balance.
a hassle on why they got so much money, but that's okay. We can go that route. But,
Well, in my opinion, oversimplified is the state has really come forward and doing a lot better job of funding. And I don't know how much leeway they have with that state money, but they have a little bit. And I think that's what's doing it. We're used to, they didn't have that. So I give the credit to the state. I just don't know that it'll always be there.
so when you look at that 5%, that, and then of course, I remember Ms. Wolf, Susan, on 7. They wanted to keep it at 7. So in our budget book, is it gonna be 5% or is it gonna be 7% when we look at their budget?
They're only required to be at 5. They're probably like me. I want it to be 25. They want it to be 7. So their preference is 7. But if they went to 6, they would still be meeting our policy.
Right.
'Cause
So they could go to 5 and not be in any trouble with us, that is.
yeah, and they may when they start doing these capital amendments.
I thought all those capital projects were pretty well already budgeted with the amount of money. They may need some extra here and there, but looking at the budget, it looked like all of them's already funded. Are there gonna be that gigantic amount of extra money that might come out in amendments?
I can't speak for them
Yeah, I
on
know
that.
you can't. I was hoping one of them would be here today, but they're not, so, immaterial. I'm gonna be, questioning that, I guess, the rest of the year, because I'd like to say it at 5%, because that's what we required them to have, and I hope they could stay there.
Well,
Let me put their hat on for just a second, Mom. If that was me, it would probably be the way I'm preparing for something I'm going to be doing in the future. And we'll probably be talking about that when we get to 189. But
Hope.
I can't speak for them, but if I'm preparing for something that's going to happen, that's how I'm doing it. I can't say more because I can't be sure that's what.
I understand
but
where you're coming.
that's
I
how
know.
I would be doing it, and I have to assume that's what they're doing.
Hopefully, that's what they're doing.
so, I mean, the other thing to keep in mind with this fund balance and the 2 points or wherever it is their sales tax revenue projection, in my opinion, just based off of some of the things I've read and the trend is, I think she said she's got a 1.8. If she gets that, I'll do a flip. So they've, put your old hat on for a second. They've always had a little bit more in there than the 5% as a cushion if sales tax. I guess COVID didn't do what we thought it would do. Remember,
Right.
everybody started going there and buying stuff at Walmart or wherever, and sales taxes were coming in. That's flattened out because the state's last budget projection the other day that they had on the state website was down. It was the first time in quite a while that sales tax was actually down from what they projected. All that to say is that fund balance, even a point there, gives them a cushion if sales tax doesn't recognize what they projected. Because I was going to say, even at 1.8, even when they were here at the hearing, I'm like, are you sure? I mean, more like a 1. But when I chatted with her and past conversations with Susan, they use that fund balance as I wouldn't call it a cushion, but it helps them with the confidence to be able to give the raises and the things they want to do if sales tax doesn't come in. So if it does come in, good. But if it doesn't, you've got that there. And that's above the 5%.
And it's come in every year except 07, 08.
But we
right
may be
in there.
seeing the turn that we've been thinking on sales tax. And I think that's one of the reasons why the state also eliminated some of their administrative fee. If you remember, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, they reduced the amount that they charge their take or their cut, whatever you want to call it, when they process all the sales tax up in Nashville. They reduced that by a quarter of a point or something like that. And I had them do a calculation, and what it meant to us, it would bring in about an extra $120,000 for us. And the general fund, I don't know how much it would be but it would obviously be more. So anyway, fund balance, the little there is to help them with the assurance on their sales tax. Property tax, I think we have a pretty good idea, but sales tax but eventually it's going to go down. All right? Does that make sense? Oh, I thought I was teaching you something. But when they send their amendments over, that's when they're deciding. Go ahead, Susan.
Text, at least this is how I always like to look at it, is I took the $115 million budget, that's what their expenditures are estimated to be. If you divide that by 12 months, that means your monthly expenditures are going to be somewhere about 8.7 million, okay? Then if you take that same 115 million and multiply it by 7%, which is kind of our sweet spot, that only adds up to 8.05 million. So in my mind, 7% doesn't even provide 1 month's expenditures. And although it's not required to have that much, all the training that I went through the years, the state recommended that you try to have 2 months' expenditures. Well, that would be 16 million, which we've never tried to keep that high fund balance. So what I'm saying is, it's not as much money as you think when you look at what they spend every month, and when you also think 82% of that is going to salaries and benefits, that's required. There's nothing you can do about that. So to me, that's a reasonable number, but I know we see it differently, but that kind of gives you a context of how much money and what percent that looks like.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue with you. I know you're always pretty close to being right.
I don't know about that, but
No, but you talk about what kind of tragedy in the state of Tennessee has ever happened where a school needs to completely pay their people for a month or two. That's where I come from. I don't know what kind of school you went to, but you'd have to shut down the whole town to have to pay people 2 months' salaries for teachers, for something that tragedy that might happen where they're not working but they're on contract.
And that has never happened. But I will tell you something that did happen. So I'm the old person at the school system. I guess I'm the old person everywhere now. But anyway,
You're just old.
they always made fun of me for thinking how that would never happen. Like I'm one of these people that says, let's have enough paper checks that if everything crashed and we had to generate a regular check, we could, but So because all of our state money kind of comes through E-Plan, it comes on a regular basis for the TISA money, but for any of your grants or whatever, you have to, it's a reimbursement, okay? But we had something happen to us one time that really did show me that stuff like this can happen. And what it didn't affect us making payroll. For one thing, what happened is something happened with food service when they put in their request, and it shut the entire system down. So there was no money being sent for about 2 weeks. Now, if that had not been remedied, which they were jumping through hoops, everybody was trying to get that money going again. It didn't just shut down the one they had a problem with, it shut down the whole system. So I think because everything's electronic now, it's not hard for me to imagine that could be in the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it will ever happen. I hope it never does. But I always wanted to plan for what could happen to take care of our people, and that's just kind of how we looked at it.
And that's what the state will suggest with the 2. Now, if you start comparing it to me, I'm saying 6, because I don't get that state money.
Right, that's true.
Because their money comes in fairly regularly, and what they're gambling on is something happening and missing a beat. But mine is 6 months definitely, and so that's why I fight for the 25. I got to have that. Theirs is arguably they feel 1, state suggests 2, because state's looking at it as worst case scenario too. But either way, your ongoing annual monthly operational costs are a lot in a system like that. So the public doesn't understand that fund balance. They look at it as the state's rainy day fund. It's really money, it's cash flow money, because I've been there and had to borrow for those payrolls, and that's not pretty. We shouldn't be doing that. I said, I'm never going to do this again if I have my way about it, because, you know, borrowing money to do payroll, that just don't look good or sound good, and I've done it. And I can't believe they haven't, but they haven't because state's coming in pretty much quarterly and probably some every month from different things, but so they have a much better cash flow in revenue than we do. But anyway.
That goes back to, I guess, my original point that the state passed it back 20 years ago, I guess, 3%. And, you know, why would they keep it at 3 and not change it to 7 like you'd like to see it done? You know, the state has got it at 3%. I can remember when we used to wrestle with Bob Taylor and Rick Smith, and finally gave in and let them have 5%.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but now it's jumping to 7, and the state doesn't say anything about it. Well, if the state wanted more than 3% at some of your meetings, they ought to change the law, I guess. And that would solve your problem there, keep them arguing. But I don't have a problem with 5, you know.
If I could respond to that, I
Sure.
believe the 3% is put there because if you fall below that, it's a finding. Like that is, you never want to do that, even though,
State law.
but they recommend having more than that, but they don't make it a finding if it goes down
yeah.
below.
That's like the
anything
10 with us. It's finding if you go below it, but they don't want you to get 10.
Right.
You know
Well,
what
it
I'm saying?
happened many years ago that there's two little counties, 2 small counties that went belly up, and the state had to come in and bail them out.
Don't
Gotcha.
blame me.
That's when they went with a 3%. Right, they passed. That's why they went with 3% requirement, and that's the only thing I've ever heard. And I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's why they did it back 20 years ago, I guess now.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough discussion about that. We'll have that with other things.
All right, this was handed a note. Mayor, real super quick, like 20 seconds. On page 90, 110,000 other contract services. Can you just, what is that for?
Page 90,
Yep,
So
other contracted services, that's is that the litter grant? That's where it's money in and out. That's where we pay them to haul off the tire. I said litter grant, but tire grant, right? That's where we pay them to haul the tires off, and the state reimburses us.
so
But we have
110
to
for
fund to do it, and then we also should show that in revenue somewhere. if you look over there on page 89, you'll see the same 110,000
Okay.
in revenue.
So the tire is one set of expenditures and the HHW is another.
That's the other contracted services under the recycling center,
Next,
120,000. But the tires is a flow-through tire grant. We have to fund the expenses, we also fund the revenue.
the next one real quick, on page 97, this is to the fire department. You reduced their request from 135,000 to 107. And we go back and look at the request, what isn't gonna get purchased, I guess?
Gosh, I can't remember. The line above that, I put in ARP.
Well, that's why I was gonna, that was kind of part two of my question. The
Yeah.
difference, the $28,000 difference between what they requested and what you awarded, are you gonna fund that 28,000 somewhere else?
The one above it's in ARP. I can't remember what that one was for, Mylan. Go on to something else and I'll look it up and maybe it'll refresh my memory.
Because when we looked at the budget request, AEDs was in there. So if that's what quote unquote is getting cut, I'd like to chat about that a little bit more. That's already that. Yeah, that's it. All right. Now I guess we'll go to 151, which is debt services. We are pay our debt, bonds and loans and stuff. We talked a little bit about that the other night. 9.7 million, and I saw that was put in the media, so our citizens can know that we're aggressively going after it. But the question, I guess, after you do your little research is, can we pay off in this year the interfund loan for the ESG? We talked about it last year and it just wasn't possible.
Well, it's sort of like last year. We look at the interest rates, and if the variable rates stay down and we're not spending as much as budgeted, possibly. But if we spend what's budgeted, you look on page 149, and
The
we
theory,
only have 300,000 more than's required.
well,
That ain't enough to pay off anything, but
well,
it is that much. But I've already got budgeted there to pay more than.
right, we've been doing that pretty good.
Well, we
I
didn't
get-
do that this year. We had cash flow issues in the
Wait, no.
172 fund.
Oh, that's,
We didn't
That's,
pay more on it.
exit 20.
Yeah, it's the industrial
Spring
park.
Branch, yeah, we'll never pay that one off.
We've been paying extra on it.
I
though,
mean, we'll
this year.
never, there's no benefit to pay it off at one time. Just go ahead and pay it off according to the
That's
schedule.
true. There's not, except to say you've paid it off. But,
Yeah, that's it.
but on this one,
but the
I wouldn't want to
ESG
do
one-
it today because we've only got that amount of money extra, and
that's-
those variable rates could, worst case scenario, go the other way. But if they stay down come April, May, or June, we could look at doing, I don't know when those are due. They may be due in the fall is the only thing. And we may not be wanting to gamble more than's in the budget in the fall. Some of them are due in November, December. So if they're due then, I've got extra money in there, I think, from memory. We pay the extra money, but I don't know that I'd be wanting to dip into that 200 or 300 because I don't know what the rest of the year is going to do. But the fund balance, Louis or somebody had questioned that before. That fund balance is not more than it needs to be. It's pretty much required.
Well, it's required because of our policy, which we can
Yeah,
change.
but we talked to the state about lowering that one, and they didn't want us to because this is a big deal. This is debt you owe. They definitely want you to have enough money in there for a period of time.
And I would argue with them that we do. Not only do we have enough in the current budget, in the proposed budget, we have enough for 15 months in the future. We can go all the way to November 26th and pay.
If everything stays the same, that's right, yeah.
Well,
But anyway, that is our policy now. You can change it and go lower than that. You couldn't go much lower or you would have them on us though.
I just,
Um,
there,
If there's one that's payoff, that's within that range that we're talking about there when it's due in November, December, then yeah. But, our debt's gonna drop next year anyway, if we stay with the budget. So that's the good news about debt service.
Well, I assume that Cumberland is giving you the amounts that we're gonna have to pay, cause the principal went way up. So I
Some of
guess
those
we're-
lines changed dramatically, and I questioned them about it, but yeah, it's based on the schedule that Cumberland gives us.
Yeah,
And so the only thing that should be variable about it is the variable rate. Am I correct? I questioned them too. I said, "Oh, why'd this one double? Why'd this one go away?" There's a couple getting paid off. But then as those get paid off, others jump
yeah,
up. That's the
yeah,
way
it's all, it's all,
set
in the
up.
pool. It's all in the pool, I
So
get that, but.
That's
it's-
what's happening this year a
the-
lot.
The terms of the bond at that point called for at this point in time in the life of it to do this,
Mhm.
so that's
Just
what I
so the
figured.
others, in case they don't know though, as it's not a same payment for 20 years like your house payment is. When one drops off, I guarantee you there's another bond that jumps in and takes its place until next year, until 27 anyway. That happens some every year. It happened a lot this year. So when you see the zeros in some bonds and you see increases in others, that's what's happening. It's easier to understand when you look at the graph because it stays level. But the individual ones change. Does that make sense? So if it don't make sense, let me know and we'll go over the graph sometime. But some will drop down and the others will jump up and fill in that gap so that the top line stays flat. And we do what we call level financing, but that doesn't mean every bond is level. They jump around. That clear as mud?
Oh, I get it, I just don't like it.
It helps with the budgeting greatly. Our budgeting total is usually about the same, but when you look at the individual lines, it makes it look scary. And it was big enough numbers this year, they can tell you, I said, "Are you sure about these here?"
Yeah,
Because they were doing a lot of jumping.
well, I just want, for the record, if we could pay off that ESG, cause he's giving us a pretty good rate, and he could turn around and take the payment and go make more with it. I think that's,
You know what the balance is offhand, roughly?
he would ask me that.
I mean, roughly. I
uh,
guarantee it's a lot more than that, isn't it?
Well, if we didn't have to have such a big old 15-month times principal interest payment, we could. So the state people are the ones requiring that 15 months, or are we
They
doing
don't
that to
require it.
ourselves?
They want you. You got to say, hey, if we want to lower it to 12, they got to
it u-
agree to it.
It used to be 13.
Now, keep in mind, they and Cumberland wants a big fund balance because you have variable rate debt. Now, you save money on variable rate debt, but it's a gamble. So they require, or they don't require, their advice is a certain
But-
fund balance. So we have 40% variable rate debt. City
Which is
brags
in the
about
budget.
no variable rate.
And we're budgeted for variable.
That's part of
we
that
got a
fund balance
spread there.
requirement, though. We're with variable rate debt, you got to have a larger fund balance. Is what Cumberland would tell you, and has told you all before. It's the same way with your house. To simplify it, if you get a house on variable rate debt, you will save money, but you better have money in the bank for the years that it spikes, and you can't budget it on an annual basis. You better have it in the fund balance in this case. That's what they will tell you, and it makes sense because
I get it. You gotta have the cushion we were just talking about a little bit, but not that much cushion. That's a lot of cushion. 15 months worth of being able to do it, plus what you've already budgeted.
the auditors slash financial advisors are the ones that
Well,
came to that.
I don't know if I have the support to do it. I would love to eliminate that ESG and recognize the higher interest rate on what the trustee can provide instead of what he's giving us. And we're paying ourselves, so to speak, because we get it back in HCI. But maybe one of these days we can chat with the auditors and I could at least give me a ballpark chance of explaining to them why I think that 15 months is way
What-
too aggressive.
When they come to meet with you in December for your next audit meeting,
Oh, it's those guys? I thought it was the,
That's not the ones that come, though. We'd have to invite them.
yeah, well,
That's good.
anyway, so,
but
I
they have
will find
paid.
out. I apologize. In order to bring this up, I should have known the amount. We'll ask the trustee what the payoff is.
And we can check. I just thought you might know offhand.
It's 1 million or something. I'm going by memory, which I should never do.
Huh.
Uh,
That's what I was thinking.
It is, it's 1.4 from last year, and then how much you paid down this year or in the current budget would be obviously the amount. And I think you pay that once a year or in
Yeah.
November. So we got to now to November to kind of come
I
up with
think
it.
that one's due in November.
All right. The ESG is the only one I'm referring to. Spring Branch will never pay that. And there was lights in that one as well, but
That's the one that, remember when they sold you on the idea, savings in utility was gonna pay for it?
yeah.
So why don't we just pay it out of utility line? I'm being sarcastic.
No.
Not Mayor.
Well, that's 151. That's our debt.
I'm still looking for your question. If you'll give me just a second, I'm
I'll
about
take your
there.
time.
Hard to get there and talk to you at the same time.
It's all right. Cindy and I'll talk.
Okay. We're on that 790 line. That was where your question was?
Yeah, the fire department, you cut them.
All right. In a nutshell, simplest way to answer you, there's AEDs in there, there's turnout gear in there, there's radios in there, and the request was to do so many of them a year for X number of years, and I've lowered the number and extended the number of years a little bit. That's why the number went down. We're still doing what they wanted to do, but for example, instead of it being 5 years, it might be, well, let's see, this one here, they wanted to do it 45 radios for 5 years, and I'm doing them for 6 years. So I extended the time frame, but we're still starting on getting those things replaced. It's not as quick as original. They just threw a number in to make sure that we knew and budgeted it. We did.
So AEDs are fully funded.
AEDs,
And turnout gear is something about rookies.
AEDs are fully. You're right.
Okay.
Turnout gear is for the rookies.
The rookies, which he said that was his number one priority.
It's fully funded. It's actually more than he asked for.
So the radios you're going to phase in.
The radios are phased a little
All right.
longer is the biggest thing.
All right, then.
So it's not a bad thing. I mean, and he's one of the departments I met with, and he's okay. Mainly, he wants to get it started. Sort of like we're doing locks. We didn't talk about locks on the ARP, but you know, there's 100,000 in there. But you remember what the request? He didn't really request it, but he gave you a heads up of what he was going to need.
Yeah.
It was huge.
I talked to him when we were leaving the meeting the other night. I thought he said at one point in time that they don't make these locks anymore, and they got to have a special locksmith come up with them. Or
Well, they have.
then why keep buying special locks?
They'll have to explain it to you, but they have had some luck with that, and so they're not costing quite as much. So if they can get 100,000 of them bought and in-house, that will do for a long time. They'll just replace them as they have issues, but eventually they're all going to need to be replaced. So we're probably going to be budgeting locks for a period of time.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Next one is page 152. I think that's it. I might know the answer to this one. That 450,000, is that their transfer to Health and Well Industrial Park? Is that the one we were talking about?
This is you're talking about page 152. This is the industrial park. This is where we budgeted to pay extra this year, and we didn't because of cash flow at the time, and I budgeted to pay extra again. I'm budgeting to almost double
That's
the
what
principal.
okay.
But it's a freestanding fund that only gets money from one source, and sometimes if you don't have a huge fund balance, there's cash flow issues. We didn't have enough when that one was due, and that was due in November too, wasn't it? We didn't have enough in that fund to do the extra pay. So that's why I said just pay the minimum and forget it and go on. But we've budgeted to do it again.
Well, that one is also a commission offer, one that we pay and the city pays.
Yeah, us and city, yeah.
All right. 189, unless there's anything else on debt services. And the big thing on debt services is reducing by 9.7 million.
Right. And we do that every year. I don't brag about it until the audit comes out whenever it's black and white, but
Well,
we budgeted to
I'll
bring
brag
down
for
that
you.
every year, principal.
I said it to a group of people the other day, and they were all liking it, so I'll say it again.
Well, it's some reason people don't know or realize that, but we pay our debt down every year.
Yeah.
And I've told people that, and their mouth just hangs open. They can't believe we do. And they've been told otherwise, too, for whatever reason. But we pay down our debt a lot every year.
Yeah. All right, 189. You have budgeted the amount of money for. I went back, and that's why I have the resolution. You were right. Imagine that.
What did you say?
I went back and I read the resolution on that 300,000. It's not how I intended it to be when I put it
Well,
together, but
If you'll leave it alone now, I'll stop it next year if you want me to, but once I've got a decent amount there, because when ARP's gone, that's probably cop cars and stuff, and like it or not, you gotta do some cop cars every year. We're on a plan now of doing cop cars every year, whereas a previous sheriff wanted 1 million of them at one time, so
Well-
I wanna stay on this plan. That's a fallback plan for that. So we don't have to keep doing it, but what he's talking about, he said we're to retain 150,000. I said, and we did. We didn't spend it, so now this year it's 300,000. No, it's 150,000. Now 150,000, we retain 150,000 again, it becomes 300.
I don't have.
We don't have to keep doing that. You guys can change that resolution, but it's
No,
a
we're
good
not.
thing.
We're not touching that.
We're
resolution.
gonna need it down the road when ARP's gone, I'm
Well,
telling you.
we did spend a lot out of 189 that wasn't budgeted, but it must have been from purchase orders from a previous budget or something. 'Cause
Not this year we didn't.
I looked at all the expenses and the account analysis report. And except for your gambling money, not that you're gambling, but it's gambling money, right? Gaming tax. I'm sorry, for your elevator or whatever? But there were other expenditures in there. But that's why I asked for the purchase order thing from 189 the other day to reconcile that back. But anyway, the 300,000 is.
It's in capital outlay for
So-
you all to spend. I can't spend it. It's not committed to anything. It just says other capital outlay, and on my budget, it says commission,
Well, that's
commission.
that's what we talked about the other day. Why even why put 300,000 in a line if you have something tomorrow, then send over an amendment and we pull it out of the fund balance and put it in a line, but for it to
That's
be
the only way I can show that I did what you told me to do and retain it. I show it there.
150,000, but yeah,
But
you got me on a technical.
if you don't spend it, it's fund balance. I mean, you're okay there. But it is,
I learned my
just
mistake.
know, you make a note on that page, I cannot spend that money. I would have to come to you all to get approval on something. Again, if something came up, if something doesn't come up next year at this time, that may be where your cop cars are at. But if something came up, that's a line you can go to. It's not dedicated to anybody other than commission-approved project.
You got me. I can't.
I ain't saying I got you, but I mean,
Yeah, you did.
bottom line is it's good. And then let me go ahead and explain in case you haven't done the math on page 156. Your commitment, I guess it's in that resolution you're referring to, your commitment is 4.2 million and then 4.1 million this next year. They only spent 811,000. That's what that middle column is showing. They spent 811,000 this year. So I took the balance of that 4.2 million, which is 3,388,000, and added it to next year's commitment that you all committed to, which is 4.1 million, and that came to 7.488, and that's at the top of 156. So even though it looks like a big number, that's your first year commitment that's not spent and your second year commitment. The good thing is they're a little bit behind, I guess you would say, on the project. At least I'm ahead of them in budget, believe it or not. But that's a good thing because fund balance, 50% of the interest goes to this fund, so interest will be good. But anyway, that's what that 7.4 million is. That's commitment number one, year one, and commitment number two for year two.
Mr. Alford?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Going back on May 2024, our commission adopted a resolution 2024/18 committing $15.1 to construct a new academic building at Hopewell Elementary and to expand the cafeteria and funding the commence to fiscal year 24-25. I believe we agreed that this was a meaningful investment that will greatly benefit families in the Hopewell area. With the recent passage of Governor Lee's voucher bill, we now face increased competition to attract and retain students. We constantly hear that money follows the student. To remain competitive, we must maintain our facilities and present the strongest educational environment possible. Students with athletic ambitions, particularly those interested in track, will look at Bradley Central High Track and opt to take their talents speed elsewhere. The resolution states that Bradley County will fund up to $1.8 million for Bradley Central High School running track. Some of you have visited the campus and seen firsthand the condition of the track. For those who haven't, I previously shared photographs on the big screen and clearly depicted the significant issue and need for the track. Bradley Central has long been a source of pride for our community, known for its rich legacy of athletics and academic excellence. As a Bradley County resident, a former Bradley student athlete, a former educator at Bradley, former coach at Bradley, now a Bradley County Commissioner, find the current state of the track unacceptable and frankly embarrassing. We are fortunate to sit here today with efficient funds in 189 to build a new track. It's time for the Director of Schools, the Board of Education, and the County Commission and the Mayor to do what is right for the student athletes at Bradley Central and our community as a whole. The time is act now. It is time we appropriate the funds and build the track Bradley deserves. With that, I move that we fulfill our obligations as detailed in Resolution 2020-24-18 in physically 2025-2026. Move $1.8 million from the Fund 189 fund balance to 189-91190 to fund the construction of a track at Bradley Central High School. I'll place that in the form of a motion, sir.
Hold on a second. That last thing with your account, and can you repeat that for me?
189-91190.
Okay, 189 is the fund, and the account is
91190, Page-
91190. All right,
page 155.
Give me 1 second. I'll take up your motion here. Oh, that's where we were just looking. All right, so in order to keep this going, do we have a second on this motion to basically appropriate the amount he just said into the fund in the 91190? To keep the discussion, I'll second it. So, Mayor, he wants to put 1.8 million into a line in the Fund 189. After all that you just said, the fund balance should be able to handle that. But when I'm trying to go by memory, did we get 177? 177 is where they actually budget to do things. Like, that's where when I saw her presentation, she had money in there for Hopewell. I think it was 4.8 million, and it said in there it'll be paid for from 189. So you write a check or you send money over to 177 when they
ask for it,
when they ask for
need
it.
to be reimbursed, yeah.
Right, which they haven't even done yet. So
They've done 811,000.
they
of
did
it.
800,000, and then they
811.
budgeted the budget we're getting ready to go into that for Hopewell. But you've budgeted more in 189 than what they have.
I think I know the number you're talking about. I don't know where they got it. But I'll explain to you what I did. I took my commitment, added to what's not spent this year of my commitment, and that's the 7,400,000. I don't think they have 7,400,000 there. I can't speak for them on that. But that's what it will be. They can ask for that much in reimbursement based on your commitment, and that's what I've reflected in the budget. 7,400,000. Now, when they request it, we write a check to them, and where they put it, I don't know, but I assume it's 177.
Okay, so I don't see where this interferes with the Hopewell project. That was when we did this resolution, Hopewell was part of it, and then we added. It's all one resolution though. It's in there. That's why I said you were right about the 150,000. the 1.8 million's in there. So we have a motion, we have a second to do this. Any more discussion?
One other
Commissioner Alford?
One other question to the mayor on that 7 million. Did I understand you, or am I hearing things that
You
you
got anything?
budgeted
Yeah, I
that
do.
and for next year also, the 7 million?
I can't-
4 point something each year or something?
You all committed to 4.2 and 4.1.
Yeah,
And the 4.2, only 811 was spent. So that 3.3 got added to your second commitment of 4.1
right.
and became that 7.4. So this budget lives up to your first and
First.
second year commitment.
Second year.
And then you've got 2 more years after this that is in the long-range plan to, your third and fourth commitment is 5 million and then 1.8 million.
Right.
So we're just gonna
The
accelerate,
7 is actually. for 2
accelerate
years.
the 1.8. All right, Commissioner Slater, please.
So have we historically in the past moved money to be spent before someone has asked for the money? I mean, I don't think the school board has come and asked for, the school system has come and asked for this money, have they, to be spent?
Commissioner Alford, you wanna answer that, or?
I don't know that the
Uh,
school system's done anything yet. This is not saying that, this is just putting it out there. If they, when they do decide they want to come, they can come and get it real, and we've got it available to them.
Well, we would have it available no matter where it sits, wouldn't we? Mayor?
If they came and asked for it 2 months from now, it would be in the fund balance. You all could approve an amendment out of the fund balance, yes.
But your question is, have we ever done?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if we've ever funded something with basically anticipating. I had to go back and research that. Commissioner Alford?
Traditionally, being back in the school system for 30-plus years and being on commission 20 now, I can never remember that the county commission ever funded facilities. It's always been up schools to fund facilities, and we fund buildings, basically. That's always been a tradition, but in this resolution, we made the decision to fund a track, which is a facility. And I would think the board would follow along with us on that and provide the extra money that we need to build the track. Since we went out, we would step into their. Excuse me. We would put this into a resolution
Was the
on a
only-
facility basis. And as far as I know, been on the commission 20-something years, I don't know that we've ever funded facilities at a school situation. But hopefully, this resolution that we passed, we decided to do that. So that's where I'm coming. I'm just wanting to say, let's get it done, because I was at school 2003, I think, is when I retired. That school track has not had 1 ounce of work done on it since before then.
Well, I don't want to speak for the school system, but I don't think their plan is to do anything till after the Hopewell project. So I don't think, and once again, I'm not speaking for them, but I don't think they have money allocated in, well, I know they don't in next year's budget to address the track.
I don't know if they're gonna ever have any money out of their budget. I think they're counting on that 1.8 being all of it.
No, it's more than 1.8 to complete the track.
What is it?
It's like $4 million or something like that.
Oh.
It's more than $1.8 million.
More, I don't know how much.
Well, you're looking at some estimates that they put out a long time ago. I've done a lot of looking into this situation, and I'm not going to speak for designers or somebody, but they can build a track. We can build a track if we had to. I think we could build a track, period, for the 1.8. Now, getting the turfed infield and the finer things might be a very big question. But I think it'd be worth putting out for bid and see then.
I look at it like this. You asked us not to hurt your fund balance. The fund balance is ours and yours. I don't think this hurts if we put 1.8 into a line. I don't think it hurts the fund balance, per se. You agree or disagree? Thoughts? I mean, you,
Can I
I
explain
don't
that a
want you
little
to kill us
further?
later, but I don't think it hurts.
And I don't mean to be speaking on either side of the issue. I'm gonna ride the fence, but I also want to make sure you understand the long-range plan. It doesn't. When I talk about fund balance, I'm talking about general fund. That's where our operations are.
Well,
The fund balance in here. But here's the thing about this fund balance, and I'm only telling you now because whatever you do, I don't want you to say you didn't know. The plan that I have with schools and you all with what you've approved is to pay cash as long as we can go. Dr. Cash agrees with that. We're paying cash for the first 4 years, which is 4 phases of Hopewell, 15.2 million. The plan is to pay cash. Now, a commissioner the other day said, well, he hadn't approved that project. I have to assume you're going to approve the next project, which is a school that's in their plans. You may not, but if you don't, then I'm okay. But if you do, I've got to be as prepared for it as I can.
that was me.
So the plan is to pay cash for Hopewell. That's in the long-range plan. The plan is to pay cash for as long as we can on the next project, which will probably be an elementary school. We will not have enough cash to do it all. I'm not stupid, but the plan is to pay it as long as we can, which will delay borrowing as long as we can. Dr. Cash doesn't want to borrow until we have to. Why? We save interest for the taxpayers, and we save 1/3 of the borrowing amount by doing it that way. So if I can pay cash for, say, at least the first 2 years of that next project, and I don't know, maybe longer than that, because according to how the interest does with the money. But that is our plan, is to pay cash as long as we can out of this fund, and then we will have to borrow. By then, we'll first of all have borrowing power, but we also will have lowered the amount we have to borrow. And when we borrow, we start paying interest, plus we borrow 1/3 more than we need. That's the two things we're trying to prevent. And she's 100% in agreement with that. As long as she stays on the timeline, we're doing good. So all I'm saying to you now is, this is your prerogative to do, but if you do, what have you done? You've taken $2 million out of that potential money that we have to pay toward that next project, plus all of the interest it will have earned over 3 years. So you're costing that, say, $2.5 million. That's probably having to borrow a year earlier than we would have. So as long as you know that's totally your decision. I'm not speaking against it, other than I want to be able to say, and that camera better be on because I want the recording, I told you what you're doing to the project. Now, it'll still happen. Now, you may have attitude, I'm not going to be here or whatever. I hope to be here, but even if I'm not, I think that's the best for the taxpayers. Prolong the borrowing as long as possible. Borrow only what we're spending cash for only what we need. We're not having to share it, if that makes sense. And that is the plan that we've all agreed to somewhat. But you are taking $2 million plus any interest it would have earned out of that fund when you do this. So as long as you don't say, I didn't know that, you didn't tell me that, yes, I did. And that's the difference in what you're doing or looking at doing here today. It doesn't hurt the fund balance today. It hurts what that fund balance will do in the future.
All right, thank you. Any other, I mean, you're right. Any other discussion on that? Commissioner Mason, please.
Well, I just think too, we just had just a few meetings ago talk about what our biggest needs are too. And Lord, I'm a former bear too, and I ran track and everything else. I'm not against Bradley High School having a track, but I just think my constituents, who I speak for and who I sit here before, would be in favor of holding the reins and waiting, and because we do have schools and stuff to be built. So that's where I'm at on it. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question though? And this is the other part of this conversation. We've already decided to fund the track,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not a question of whether or not it's going to keep from another project being done. So there's two parts of this. Do you or do you not want to fund a track? We already decided that. Now it's kind of like, okay, we can put the money in the health of the fund is to the point where we can put it in there, and then the school then has to decide on the timing piece of it. We've done our, after this, if this goes through, Mayor or Commissioners, then we're done. And we can move on to other projects. The mayor's right. Again. Well, I mean, but this is money going towards school also that we don't have to do the split with, right? I mean, if this was funded out of 141, it would be in the split filter or whatever it's called. That's not right. Anyway, so I mean, this project that has been approved is saving also money. By the way, in my mind, I always say it's 50 cents on the dollar, because when we do $1, we got to give them 50 cents.
Yep.
Right. Anyway, so if it's 1.8 million, that's 900,000 that if it was funded out of 141, that our friends across the street would be getting. So it being in 189 and it being approved to be done saves money as well. What you want to do, I'm not speaking for you, but I think I get what you're saying, is as much as possible, even if in theory, if we could fund every single school project out of 189, let's do that. But we know, I mean,
That was the plan.
The cost of
you're-
projects are going to get to some point to where you can't save up enough for the project.
That's true in reality. The plan was to do exactly that. We're just doing too many, potentially doing too many at once, so to speak. 15 million is pretty bad. The next one's going to be bigger than that. But I do want to throw one caveat in there. And it sounds like I'm arguing against it, but I just want to make sure you're looking at all the facts.
I think
You
it's-
say we've approved it, we've committed to it.
Well, I
That,
think-
that makes some feel better, but when you get through with Hopewell, it's 2028, and that's a new commission, and you can't commit the next commission to anything.
Well, they would have to rescind the resolution.
Well, true, but it wouldn't be an automatic approval.
No.
So next commission may not do it. But in the meantime, you've lost all that interest you would have made on $2 million too.
And if they never do anything, I mean, now for the sake of argument, let's say this goes through, then the onus is now on 4+ members on the school board to do anything. I mean, we're not actually going to go hire a project manager or
No.
our track person.
We'd wait on a reimbursement request like we always do, and hopefully
Exactly.
it don't
And
come,
they
but
could wait till 2099 to do it in theory. So the 1.8 that sits there is drawing interest as well.
yeah, as long as it's sitting there. you're
Oh,
right.
sorry, Commissioner
No,
Collins.
Thank you. That was my question. I think we're not, help me understand the process. We're not going to go out and construct or get into the world of construction. We're simply designating or honoring the resolution. Therefore, and this may be a Susan or Caleb question, would we not
Post on
continue
if
to
you need
draw interest?
Well,
I mean, we're not spending it. Would it not sit in an account that draws interest similar to what we would be doing in a fund balance?
It would stay right where it's at until it's requested by reimbursement.
So technically, it feels like what we're saying is, we want to go ahead and honor the resolution, designate the 1.8. It would continue to draw interest, which I think solves, that caveat. And then it's incumbent upon the system to hire out bids and to look at the construction of it and to request the reimbursement. Would that be correct?
Right, and it also clears anything. I got 2 points. It clears out any, like, let's say they want to expand XYZ school. Well, we're ready for that request. Then I guess how you read this, but you're right. I guess the next commission can say, that previous commission shouldn't have done that or whatever. I don't know what else to say. Yeah.
The idea for me is, does this check the box? Does it check the box and say, hey, we've honored our commitment, we've honored our resolution, and now we can move on to another project?
Just
Because
to play devil's advocate,
Yes,
can I answer it?
Yes,
Louis gonna think I'm arguing against. It does, but you're checking a box that's never been requested.
Well, they
School
re-
board has never asked for this money. You gonna buy your wife a car when she don't even want it?
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you. In Quasi, they requested that we fund it.
yeah, I thought that was part of the arrangement.
original arrangement.
Now, that's what I was gonna say, and this may be
Look at
totally
that
tangent, but I think
resolution.
this is worth talking about today. To his point, and he's been here a lot longer, you've been here a lot longer. If I had to do over again, I'm probably gonna eat these words. We probably would have gone with the science wing like we traditionally said, in tracks and football fields and baseball locker rooms, school board, knock yourself out. I mean, maybe we can have Commissioner Winters in his policy committee, like from here on out, we do expansions in schools, but tracks, football field, baseball fields, leave that to the school system, so that we don't get into this again.
Well, if I was a citizen on the street and they've got $150 million budget and they've chosen not to replace a track for 30 years,
Then I talked to my
that's
school board
their
member.
choice.
That's my
$150 million.
I call up my school board member and tell him,
They've chosen not to do it. That's,
well,
it's not that they didn't have money. I mean, look at that budget.
That's the point, Mayor, you hit it right on the head.
They
Not the
haven't.
fact, they've got the money to fund $7 million track if they wanted to. If they wanted to,
But they don't want to.
I
So
understand.
why would
but
we
it's-
fund it
it's
and force it
nothing
on
to
them?
Well, then,
do-
if
I
they don't
think
wanna
it's
do it-
anything to do with the money, it's because certain people on that board have
well, we don't know.
agendas.
If they don't wanna do it, then the 1.8 million can go to something else. I mean, should we
Well,
really be asking for,
Again, your wife didn't ask for a new car, but if you hand her a check for $40,000, she's probably gonna go down there and buy that car. Even though she never asked for it. Even though for 30 years she hadn't asked for it, and they got ample budget to do it. How much is
then
it? Total up that
$150.
budget. How much is it?
it was
$115 million
150?
each year.
Mayor, I'm willing to be wrong on this, but I really did, I thought that was part of the total resolution was, hey, you fund this, this, and this.
Well, we put that in the resolution.
Okay.
We put that in there.
What?
Schools did not, from memory, come and ask for money for a track.
They did.
I thought they did.
They absolutely did. And,
I don't, you think they did?
But Mayor, yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't want to argue one way or the other, but they did. That I'm like 99.9% sure. But the other thing is, we know when we drafted the resolution, we sent it over to you and Crystal for the wording piece of it. And I was going through. That's why I had it Lori printed out. The first way I had it written, and I say is I wanted a percentage of it, and you said don't do percentages, do a hard a number. That's where the 150 came from. You didn't like the percentage, 'cause I think it was 10 or 15% would have to be reserved for non-Hopewell stuff. Then we sent it over to Dr. Cash. She took out geothermal stuff that was, because we used a template, and I guess the old template had geothermal in it, furniture, fixtures, and stuff like that. Anyway, so and it came back over. We took one thing out. We sent it went over there 3 times. So my point is, if they didn't want the 1.8 in there for the track, they had 3 opportunities to take it out. That's my point. That's all. Yeah. So, well, we have a motion, we have a second, but this is I'm glad to hear it doesn't hurt the fund balance. What it does is, for the next project, may put us in a position where we have to borrow a little bit before we want to. But I think we have to get our crystal balls and figure out if it's going to be another expansion or another school. And if it's a brand new school from scratch, like I haven't since my 12 years here, we haven't had a school from scratch, so to speak. Right? I mean, we've Lake Forest, we did the cafeteria was there and the gym was there. I wasn't here for that one. And Pie Center was a refurb on this, so it'll be the first one. And I don't even know what the estimate. And everything else has been expansion, right? So, anything else on this? And then I think the last one would be 192. We don't really have anything to talk about. No, we got to take a vote. So, but I want to make sure everybody is heard on this. Commissioner Alford, Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Slater, Chairman Cry, please. I'm sorry.
I agree with the 1.8 million that was put in the resolution on Hopewell. I find it hard to support anything that did not come as a request from the school system.
They did.
They did not request what we're about to vote on.
They did.
So, I don't know, if they want the track, let them ask for funding for the track. We've got the money, we'll appropriate it at the appropriate time. It just appears to me we're trying to force feed the completion of the track. As far as the maintenance of the track, I think Commissioner Alford mentioned 20 years or since he retired, nothing's been done. Well, that's a problem, someone in leadership. Nothing's been done. I think I've expressed myself to the school system on that adequately. All the other parks are maintained except for the track. And if they would have maintained the track, we wouldn't be in the situation necessarily that we're in. But I just wanted to make sure that I'm not in support of anything that Dr. Cash or the school system through the board has approved. We've got the money. We can do this anytime. It doesn't have to be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor McTry. Mr. Alford.
Just one reminder to the committee. It's funny that the school board seems to have had $300,000 to refurbish Walker Valley's track, which is in perfectly good condition, but they spent $300,000 just recently up there to refurbish it, and they just spent $400,000 on some bleachers that are on the visitor side of the stadium. So I think they got the money. If they got the money to do those kind of projects, you'd think they'd have the money to do a track at Bradley High School for, hadn't been anything done for X number of years. So, you know, there's my point on it, that they seem to have the money when they have projects that they want to do in the Walker Valley area.
Okay. I don't know how to, I got nothing.
I would just ask Susan, and I hate to put you on the spot for this, and no, and I'm not trying to do that at all, because
Susan who?
I'm willing to
She's-
be wrong.
She's
and
gonna witness protection program.
I could have swore that the track was requested as part of this arrangement, and I believe that was during your tenure. Is that correct, to the best of your knowledge?
Okay, so I was involved in the retreat where this was all discussed. I was not in town the day that they come to the commission, so
Right.
I wasn't in that meeting. But what I understood from the retreat is that they were wanting to ask the commission to take the Hopewell project and the track project up, and we were gonna take over the science wing,
Correct.
Parkview, Waterville, I think, and is that, I think three?
That's
I
right.
think,
And Coe, right?
and Ocoee. That's what I recall about what they were going to do. I was not here when they did it, so I cannot speak to what they said to you guys, but that's what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah, they requested it.
Yeah, and I don't want to argue at all, but I really want to be wrong. If I misremembered, I want to be corrected. But I believe that was a part of the arrangement that the commission was tasked with, take on the track, and then they'll take on the other. And looking at this just from a fiscal standpoint, the way I understand it, and again, you two can correct me, the money will stay in the account drawing interest. So it's possible that, and Mayor, I may not understand this correctly, we may not have to borrow early depending upon when the money is pulled for the track. I mean, all of that is contingent upon, this simply checks our box that we're honoring that. Here's the 1.8, we've agreed to it, it was requested. When it's decided to move forward into the project phase, that's when the money would be reimbursed, correct? And until that time, we would continue to draw interest. Okay.
Anybody else? If not, we'll finish this up with voting. So all those in favor of the motion, or do you need to be read again? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
So we have a 3-2, motion passes. All right, so if you'll make that note in your journal, your documentation there. That should finish up 189. Mayor, is there anything on 192 HCI?
No, I want to make sure they have this. 189,91,300-799 is where they are voting to add 1.8 million, which will increase the expenses 1.8 million and reduce the fund balance 1.8 million. Did you ever get that finished, Caleb? Health Wellness? It's not finished. It will be finished in time for you to look at. It'll be part of your final budget, but it's not done yet, the
Okay.
health and wellness thing.
I do have another question. We can wait till after the meeting, but,
That's all right.
but the money you put in back on 189 on the revenue side, the quote unquote gift and contribution, which is
Yeah.
I just wonder, 'cause you and I chatted about that.
You want me to
About
explain
that.
what I've done in the proposal?
Well, you remember my idea, right? And
What he's talking about is the landfill money, what's it called?
well, it's a gift.
Anyway, it's, the money that comes from landfill every year in October, it's projected to be 1.290. And the way that is divided, it's always been divided mostly into 189 and a little bit into the landfill. This current year, we put 100 in the fire department. This budget before you has 200 in the fire department and 265 in the landfill, and then the balance of 825 in this fund. That's to help the fire department to maintain the fund balance that's required there. But it's 825 here, 265 in the landfill, 200 in fire.
Right. And
And that's based on what we project it to be, of course, but yeah.
right. And I guess my thought was we could do a little bit more over on the fire. And
We may have to next year. This year, putting 200 there and pretty much funding everything they asked for leaves the fund balance okay. But that fund balance is getting, as I've told you before, very iffy. It's close.
that's why I asked the question about the AEDs or whatever,
Yeah.
that they're funded. So let me ask you this, and I don't know if you need a motion on that, but if the quote unquote gift comes in more than what you projected, I think in the current budget, you split the baby and did a little bit both. Can you put, if it comes in more, all
extra
all
go to
above
fire.
you are saying 825 for 189?
Yeah, I would put the extra in so
the
the
fire.
200 would grow, is
So
what,
if it came in an extra 50,000 more than what you projected, 50,000 would go into the fire.
right.
Okay. Everybody understand? Good. All right. 1:30. All right. This will be a record. Unless you guys want to talk about something. I don't know. I am required by law to, is there any communication from the audience? Seeing none. Alan, this is your big chance. Yeah. Oh, he didn't have any. Budget calendar, June 9th, budget review and department head. And so on the June 9th commission meeting is when elected officials and department heads can appeal. And I believe the process is that they make an appeal. It takes a commissioner to make a motion. It goes through this normal process of voting in order to win their appeal.
Yeah, and you
I
can't
think
do it
in
that
my
day.
time, it's only happened one time.
It's happened years ago a lot, but they will appeal Monday. There shouldn't be any appeals. I've talked to all the big ones, but everyone hasn't seen it. So, Caleb, you guys don't forget, tomorrow they will get sent what you've recommended.
Mhm.
Reason I don't show them from Monday night is you guys haven't recommended yet. So that's, some years that changes drastically. But anyway, now that you've met and made your minor changes, and thank you that they're minor, they will send every department a copy of their budget. It's what's supposed to happen, just so that they know what they're getting. If they can't live with that, come Monday and appeal. Monday's not a voting meeting, so if you want to give John Doe's department another $50,000, hopefully you'll say it's coming from another department, move 50 from there to here. If you want to do that, you put it on the agenda the following Monday to approve. That tells us what the budget is, because I have to, like I told you last year, I have to go to the newspaper before you guys vote Monday. So that'll tell me if there's any potential changes. If they're minor, I go on anyway, but I've got to go to the Banner on Monday for it to be in Tuesday's paper. And that's with them doing me a favor, and they did last year, they better do it this year. It's a very tight frame there. So anyway, the key is appeals Monday. If there's anybody that just breaks your heart, now I'm telling you, everybody got more than they got this year, so nobody should be crying, but they could have some issues. A lot of times when you talk to them, if they'll talk to you ahead of time, it can be fixed with an amendment during the budget year. Maybe I took 2,000 out of this line and 1,000 here, and it should have been the other way around. That's logical. But you can fix that with an amendment. It shouldn't be an appeal if they talk. They've not talked to me, but not all of them have seen their budget yet either. So once they see it, if it can't be fixed with an amendment, they should come to appeals. And then you'll get on the agenda for the next week to address that
I
appeal.
thought we voted went right.
We
with the
used to
appeal.
wait till the voting meeting to have appeals. But
So-
because of the turnaround time and having that final meeting a little early, we had to move up the appeals. Still are delayed, but again, let's say nobody appeals Monday, then I got my budget ready to go to the newspaper. If they appeal and only one of you's put something on the agenda, then I pretty much know what's going to the newspaper. So
Right.
that gives me the direction I need Monday to get to the newspaper.
And commissioners can appeal as well, right? Just kidding.
Yeah, anybody will have that opportunity. And don't forget, I need the ad for the Banner, which is the general budget. And then ideally, you need to email every department their proposed budget, finances numbers, proposed budget.
All right. And the last thing, well, second to the last thing, we will vote on the budget on June 27th. I mentioned that the other day. You said it's a special call, but what if I put something else on there on that same thing? But it's a substitute meeting. Anyway, the tax rate, briefly go over that. We did get that, but I think it's being looked at one more time. So,
The certified rate sitting on my desk that they have looked at.
but
I will sign it as is, but you remember 3 years ago, I signed it and sent it in, and we come up $1 million short. I can't tell you it's right. After they talked to Stanley, they're fairly well convinced that it's right. I assume that year it was right, and it wasn't. So don't think it can't be wrong.
So I guess he's.
But I've got to send it back in so that you have officially a
okay,
certified
so-
rate.
Well, we all saw it. I
Mm.
mean, but I think he wants to. One more because of what happened. He's super.
Right. We're all a little bit leery because never heard of that happening before, but it really
Yeah.
did happen. a
So
couple
that's
years-
why I didn't mention the numbers today,
Yeah.
because I planned to see. Gets,
But we'll take that certified rate and
but-
put it in, convert it to the new rate in all the funds, and your resolutions will be to you then on the 16th, I guess, to vote on the 27th.
yeah, it has to be on the resolution.
Mm.
And what is pretty much set in stone is the value of a penny. 400 penny is going to be now 473,000. You like to talk about that in your speeches
do.
and stuff.
It's a good thing to talk about.
Um,
When people say you're living on the same dime, no, you're not. That penny's grown from $90,000 to $470-something thousand.
473.
That's what you call growing the value of your community. So we're not living on the same dime. You all know that, but citizens, I've had a lot of them tell me we can't live on the same dime forever. You got to raise taxes. How crazy are you? We're not living on the same dime. We're growing the value of that penny, and so that's good
I think
news.
473. I mean,
Which is why the rate's going down.
yeah, and we'll have the rate pretty soon. All right. Thank you guys very much, Commissioner Alford, Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Mason, Chairman Cry. Appreciate your diligence on this. Mayor, Caleb, Susan, Lori, Alan, thank you guys. This is the one big day, I guess, in the year, so we cut it down by, usually we use around 3:30 when we get out of here, so